Welcome, everyone. Before we dive into today's powerful conversation, I just wanted to thank you for being a part of this incredible community. Your support, whether it's sharing the podcast, leaving a review, or simply tuning in each week, makes a massive difference. Together, we're creating a space where stroke survivors, caregivers, and allies can feel seen, heard, and supported. As you may have heard in recent episodes, since 2015, I've been personally covering all the costs of producing the Recovery After Stroke podcast to make sure these conversations remain free for those who need them. Late last year, I opened up the opportunity for those who found value in the podcast to support it on Patreon. You can learn more by going to patreon.com/recoveryafterstroke. A heartfelt thank you to everyone who's already supported the podcast, and a special shout out to my most recent supporters, David and Luke. Your generosity helps make this work possible. And if supporting financially isn't something you can do right now, just listening to the podcast and not skipping the ads goes a long way. Every little bit of engagement helps keep this going, and I'm incredibly grateful. Before we begin, a quick reminder about my book, The Unexpected Way That a Stroke Became the Best Thing That Happened. It has helped hundreds of survivors and their families around the world find meaning and hope after stroke. You can grab your copy at recoveryafterstroke.com/book or on Amazon by searching my name, Bill Gassiamas. Now, I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Lisa Cook. Lisa experienced a thalamic ischemic stroke at just 30 while attending a work conference interstate. Despite collapsing and losing consciousness, her stroke went undiagnosed for 12 days, initially mistaken for a seizure. It wasn't until a follow-up MRI back home in Adelaide that the truth came to light. In this episode, Lisa shares what it was like to have a stroke with no classic symptoms, how it led to the discovery of a hole in her heart, and the emotional impact of surviving when others don't, including survivor's guilt, extreme fatigue, and the invisible symptoms that still linger. She also talks about how this experience eventually led her to the board of the Stroke Foundation, bringing her governance expertise and lived experience to improve stroke advocacy and support. Lisa's story is a profound example of post-stroke purpose and resilience. Let's jump in. Lisa Cook, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Phil. I'm really excited to be here.
Same here. It was really lovely to meet you at the Stroke Foundation event that we were both at a few weeks ago. One of the things that I have done recently is re-engage with the Australian Stroke Foundation, with the Australian stroke survivors. It's not that I was disengaged, but it's that with the podcast, things have taken off, and my biggest audience is in the United States, which is nothing I expected. So it's really good to meet people locally. And when I met you, I thought, well, this is a story I need to learn about. So can you start by telling us a little bit about what happened to you?
Okay, so we'll go back to 2015. So it's coming up to a 10-year anniversary for having my stroke. And it was really a day like mainly any other day, but that night I was actually in Sydney. So I live in Adelaide, but was up in Sydney attending a conference and attending a big sort of gala dinner that was on for that conference that night. It was fine. Things are normal, didn't drink much, didn't do anything out of the ordinary. By the time we got back to the hotel room, I started to feel really dizzy, which for me is actually not that out of the ordinary to have that happen. So normally I just lay down and it kind of passes and everything's fine. But this time when I laid down, I proceeded to fall unconscious and was then unconscious probably for about an hour or so. So passed out in the hotel room, woke up in St. Vincent's Hospital in Sydney, not knowing obviously what had happened.
How were you found?
Well, my husband was with me, so he was the one that had to experience all of that, really. Fear for the worst. He was trying to get me to wake up, and I wasn't. So that's never a good feeling. And he was the one who called 000 for the ambulance to come, but couldn't quite work it out. So ended up getting the hotel security and a whole bunch of people in the room apparently trying to help out and sort of fix me up, get me well, or get me somewhere where I could get better.
What type of stroke did you have, and do they know what the underlying cause was?
Yeah, so I had an a clot in my thalamus. So I believe, is that an ischemic stroke?
Yeah.
Yeah, in my thalamus, which is a part that's right in the middle of your brain. And unsurprisingly, because of the symptoms I had, it's the part that controls consciousness and things like that. So that was the part of the brain where it happened. The underlying cause, so as many of your listeners might be aware, if they themselves are young and have had a stroke, which is crazy in itself because I always thought of strokes as like an old person thing, right? Like a lot of us probably did. And then we get thrust into this world where it's like, no, actually, anyone at any age can have a stroke. And a lot of people that I talked to had the same underlying issue as I did, and that was a PFO, so patent foramen ovale, which is a hole in your heart that serves a really great purpose when you're in utero, but once you're born, should really close over and not cause any issues. But mine had not. Many others I've spoken to have had the same scenario where really the first sign that you get that you have this heart problem, a congenital heart defect, is that you have something major like a stroke.
Yeah. So then you're in hospital,
Yeah.
you discover that you had a stroke. Somehow they worked it out, I imagine, relatively quickly.
No,
Oh no, what happened?
they didn't. Because my symptoms, what I presented with were not our classic fast signs, or FAS signs. They sort of, I guess, take the sort of what is the most obvious answer that could be happening here. And of course, they do a CT scan to check if there's anything major going on in your brain. That early after having a stroke doesn't actually show up on a CT scan. So that was next to useless, really. And it could be because it was the middle of the night. It's kind of around 11:30, 12 at night. There probably wasn't an MRI technician available, so they didn't opt to do an MRI. And they're a little bit more expensive than your CT scan. So there could be a bunch of trade-offs that are happening there that, could have really expedited the diagnosis here. But they also, when I was in the hospital, undertook some epilepsy tests. So I was actually, those epilepsy tests, didn't cause me to have an epileptic fit because that wasn't the problem, but they did discharge me with a potential first seizure as being the most likely reason why I passed out and was unconscious for an hour. It wasn't until 12 days later when I was back in Adelaide and had an MRI because my discharge was under the proviso that I go back home and I go and see my GP and I get an MRI. So I had the MRI and it was that MRI that showed up that I'd had a stroke.
Wow.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 30 at the time.
Yeah. Freaky.
Yeah.
And in the 12 days after you were discharged, did you have any other moments, any other scares, anything else that happened to you that made you feel like something's still not right? How did it go?
Yeah, the fatigue, the tiredness was just off the charts.
Well, Lisa's story is such a striking reminder that stroke doesn't always look like we expect, and that healing takes time, patience, and often reinvention. Let's pause for a moment. And if you're finding value in stories like this, here's how you can help keep them going. Stories like Lisa's are exactly why I created the podcast, to shed light on real experiences and help stroke survivors feel less alone on the road to recovery. If this conversation resonates with you, please consider supporting the podcast through Patreon at patreon.com/recoveryafterstroke. Your support helps me continue bring lived experience to light and make a big difference. Now, let's get back to Lisa as she shares more about overcoming survivor's guilt, navigating life after misdiagnosis, and finding purpose through service on the Stroke Foundation board.
I would sleep really long nights, like 9, 10+ hour sleeps, then get up the next day and kind of only really be able to last until lunchtime. And then I kind of fell off a cliff. And the weird thing was, like, the fatigue is one thing. The other thing that was really out of character for me is that I just didn't care. I didn't care that I was that tired, that unmotivated, that literally all I wanted to do was stare at a wall. And that's just not my character. I mean, Bill, you've kind of seen me in person. I'm a little bit more energized now. It's been 10 years, but I still get to that lunchtime period each day, and after lunch really have this dip down. It's sort of like my capacity for mental work really is only kind of half there, it
Yeah.
feels. Yeah.
Um, so they've discovered that you've had a stroke.
Yeah.
How does that news go down? That would have been an interesting thing to deliver to you and your husband after 12 days.
Yeah. I'll tell you how it all um unraveled, because it's a weird story and it's always funny in hindsight, right?
Mhm.
I'm glad that we're here, that we can look back and laugh on some of these things. So by this stage, when I had gotten to the point where I was having the MRI on the day, my husband had gone back to Sydney for work. So I was staying with a friend because my darling friend did not want me to be alone, given what had happened and given that we were still so uncertain of what's going on here. And so she was out and about doing something. I had Ubered or caught a taxi to the radiology place, had my scan, no big deal. Got back to my friend's house. As I was walking in the door, I get a phone call from the radiology clinic and they said, "We need you to come back. We forgot to scan some parts." And I was like, this is not just a place that like opened up yesterday. This is a reputable brand. I was like, that's so weird. What a pain in the butt. Okay, fine. I'm coming back because we need answers. So I went back in the MRI again. Anyone who's had an MRI, they're just not, those headphones they give you where they play you whatever radio station you want, then you can't hear it anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the point of that?
One MRI is too many, let me tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. So as I'm getting out of that second MRI, like getting off the bed, stepping off the bed, holding my gown to, save your dignity as much as you can, the person who like shuttles you between the waiting room and the change room and the machine, and then they take you back to the change room and stuff, she came up to me and said, "We've booked you in to see your doctor at 5 o'clock this afternoon." They were the exact words out of her mouth. And what do you think I thought when she said that? I'm
I, th-
dying.
I thought, I would have thought the world's coming to an end.
Yeah, I'm dying. I have a brain tumor. I've got 3 months to live. I'm dying. I'm dead. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so I said, why? Why have you booked this appointment?
we can't tell you.
And yes, they're very reticent. But I think she would have acknowledged the fact that she just dropped that on me without any real kind of closing that loop, and rather than let someone live in agony for half a day. She was like, well, the radiologist thinks that they found evidence that you had a stroke. And I tell you what, I was not expecting that. I was not expecting that at all because to look at me, you can't tell that something has happened like that. I'm one of the very lucky ones who managed to somehow, by some sort of grace of some sort of higher power, whatever it was, to not have any outward signs that I've had, brain damage. So I was like in my head going through all these things. I'm not old. I'm not disabled. What does this all mean? What I do know of things like this is that once the damage is done, the damage is done. It's not like it's going to get worse and because it's been 12 days, we've really let it go kind of thing. And I was just like, really? And she just said, do you want to go talk to the radiologist? And I was like, yeah. So the radiologist, he's showing me the images of my brain on the screen, on a computer screen. Man, these bedside manners of these people sometimes really does make me just get big question marks. He goes, yeah, I found this, what you can see, this bright white spot on your brain. Some people would think that's a tumor, but I'm pretty sure that what you've had is a stroke and you probably had it about 12 to 14 days ago. And I'm like, really? My choice is between a stroke or a tumor. Like what what is it? Tell me for sure so I know what's going on. Anyway, and when he said the 12 to 14 days, I was like, well, today is like 12 days. How do you know what sort of time period? And he explained that the brightness of the sort of white patch that you see where there's been that brain damage is quite bright, the sort of fresher that it is. So he said, so this and this and this, pointed it out. I was like, okay, this is a lot. And then he goes, by the way, I found something on your cerebellum. I think you've had an earlier stroke, but it would have been so small that you probably didn't even realize it happened. So I've just found out I've had two strokes. I just lose my marbles, right? Just bawling my eyes out because I'm just so confused. I'm like, what does this mean? This doesn't make sense. I look fine. Yes, I'm really tired, but what does this all mean? Like, it was just so overwhelming to get that news, I think, in that fashion and sort of all at once.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it was quite weird.
God. And that did you connect the dots when because you said to me that dizziness or not feeling right in your head was common for you. You lie down and it gets better. Did you connect the cerebellum one with the dizziness later?
No, I honestly cannot think of when that might have happened. The radiologist said you might have like accidentally bumped into a wall or like dropped something you were holding. And we do that kind of stuff all the time and just go, what is going on with me? And yeah, after you've had a stroke, you kind of start to get paranoid about all those little things.
Mm.
But no, I also used to get migraines, and I've heard that migraines are associated with PFOs. And if you have your PFO closed, that for some people it helps alleviate their migraines.
Mm.
There really is nothing that I can connect it with. My dizziness is more associated with my low blood pressure
Okay.
than anything else. I think, yeah.
Okay. Or it could be both. Wow. Anyhow. So, the way that they dropped the news to you, when I went in to hospital for the first bleed that I had in my head, I was there again at around about 11:30 p.m. before somebody come to see me and say, "We found a shadow on your brain."
Oh my God.
And I was like, "Okay, well, what does that mean?" And then this, I kid you not, these are the words. It could be a tumor, it might be malignant, or it might be benign.
Yeah. Great.
And
Thanks.
then the next question was, "Do you have any questions?"
No, that was a very informative description of what's going on here.
And I'm like, okay. And they said, but you'll see somebody tomorrow about it. They'll take you through and they'll explain the details. So with that news, I had to update my wife. She was at home with the kids back then, Feb 2012 that was. And then I had to ring her and I'm like, so what do I tell her now?
Hmm.
And then what I thought was, okay, I'm going to play the incompetence card. I'm here. They've done nothing. They're taking the time. They can't get a doctor. There's no news. Go to sleep, put the kids to sleep, and come and see me in the morning. That's how I
Wow.
tried to get through the night. And I
Yeah.
was like, and you know what was really weird? For privacy, he pulled the curtains. And next behind the millimeter thick curtain is
Yeah.
another patient over there. There's another patient over there. And it's like, why do you even bother pulling the curtains? I don't understand. They're not
Yeah.
going to stop anybody from hearing what's going on. And I just found that whole experience real bizarre. Anyhow, the next day I broke it to my wife and I was 37. So we're in the same situation as you. I was like, what is going on? How do we deal with this? How do we move forward? Now, okay, so now you know, and then you go for a drive. I imagine you somehow get to your GP and
Yes.
you have a further conversation with him about or her what the situation is, what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a really interesting like medical past and weird stuff always happens to me. So my doctor's kind of, I think she's used to me by now, or was at the time. And she's like, so that's interesting. Again, I think I cried to have done a lot of crying. I cried to her. I'm like, I don't know what this means. It's just like, just really full on. And she explained, well, because you're a young person who's had a stroke, we need to explore the two lines of possibilities, well, the most obvious possibilities of why you've had this stroke. So the first one is the PFO, the heart thing. So you do that, you go down the cardiologist route with that one. And the other one is an autoimmune thing. So having a stroke is a sign of lupus or one of the symptoms of lupus. And so you go for a bunch of like thousands of blood tests around your autoimmune stuff. And yeah, you end up seeing neurologists, cardiologists, rheumatoid, what are they called? Rheumatologists, all the ologists end up like talking to you and poking you and prodding you and trying to figure things out. And yeah, so it turned out that I had the PFO. The autoimmune stuff was kind of borderline, but there was nothing that was really definitively calling lupus or anything. So we kind of just closed that avenue of exploration down and yeah, went down the heart route and it was quite my cardiologist described the PFO as quite flappy.
I love it.
So,
So
yeah, whatever that means.
that's cool. So that's cool. So not only are you diagnosed with having had potentially two strokes,
Yeah.
a little while later, you're told
Yeah.
that you have a hole in your heart.
Yeah.
And then that most likely was what the cause of the blood clot was that traveled up into your brain.
Yeah.
And now, are they talking about closing the hole and having heart surgery?
Yeah. So that sounds more dramatic than what it turns out to be in reality because, surprise, surprise, a lot of people have a PFO and they've developed a technique and what do you call it? A device that they put in hearts for this reason. So they go in through your femoral artery and they feed up this little device that they then implant into the heart over that spot that should be shut,
The
but there's
flappy spot.
a flappy spot that they aim to shut the flap down. So Yeah, if they're going in to give you heart surgery anyway, like crack open your chest kind of thing, they'll go and fix it at the same time. But if there's really no reason to open you up so dramatically, they'll do it through that artery. And so I said I have weird medical stuff. I ended up having an allergic reaction to the antibiotic they put me on before surgery. And that just, then they gave me Phenergan to counteract the allergic reaction, which made me feel like I was having a stroke again because I couldn't talk when they gave it to me. I just couldn't find words, and it just was such a weird experience. And yeah, that was just weird. The whole thing was weird.
Wow. So they've gone in and they've minimally invasively
Mm.
attended to the hole in the heart. That's been closed over, so to speak. And now, at least from a hole in the heart perspective, you're out of the risk of having another stroke with regards to the clot, right? So everything's kind of settled and you're cool.
Yeah, the procedure wasn't 100% successful, so there is a bit of a residual leak, which is annoying. I take aspirin every day for that. I mean, it's in the grand scheme of things,
It's
I'm
a small,
pretty scot-free. Yeah, so it's
yeah.
it's small, it's no big deal, really. But yeah, it doesn't mean that I can then go and like eat whatever I want and not exercise and go crazy.
You got to remain healthy.
Absolutely. For
Yeah.
so many other reasons other than
As well.
reducing your stroke risk. Yeah.
Yeah. Just for general good quality of life, but also because you've had a stroke and you are a higher risk. So why go against the grain and do the things that are going to make it potentially worse for you? That was my biggest fear, was that I do something that puts me in a situation where I cause another one,
Yeah.
and I don't want to. I can't deal with that kind of what's the word? Like, I mean, I probably could if it happened, if I was that stupid and did it. Like, I could probably accept my responsibility at that stage, but I wanted to avoid that completely and not be that guy. So I've gone out of my way to not smoke, not drink, not eat this, not eat that, the whole box and dice. So I hear you. And
Yeah.
so you had fatigue.
Yeah.
Did it leave you with any other deficits that you're dealing with still, or what was that situation like?
I I can't like I don't want to say I do, but over the years I have realized that I have two things that I don't think were there before the stroke. And one is like in the categorization of aphasia. And it's clear that I don't have what most people would associate with aphasia. I have a very, 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 very mild form of it where sometimes the word that I want to say doesn't come out in the way I want to say it. And when I'm typing, when I'm doing work things, I jumble up letters.
Oh, I do that so much.
It's such a pain in the bum. And it gets worse the more tired I am. And it gets worse when I'm overstimulated. So I find that there are some environments, not all the time, but many times that have become like too overwhelming to stay in. Like if you're at a concert or you're at a busy football game and like you're on the train and you're like shoulder to shoulder with everyone trying to go home, or you're at the markets and it's really busy and there's like a band playing and there's people there and someone's yelling out names for the orders, and it's like all that kind of stuff just becomes a little bit too much to kind of your brain to sort of filter through. And yeah, it just so it decides to prioritize that rather than allowing me to speak properly.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that feeling. I know a lot of stroke survivors know that feeling as well. So it's really interesting, like your path from 30 now approaching 40 if you haven't hit the 40 mark yet. And then the role that you decided to take to, I suppose you should describe that, right? So we met at a Stroke Foundation event. You are
Mhm.
on the board of the Stroke Foundation. What's behind the thinking of that? Why did you end up on the board? I know you have got some work that you do helping people apply to be on boards. Actually, first tell me a little bit about the work that you do, just so we can understand the background, and then what was behind the idea to actually join that board? If you're not involved in other boards, and even if you are, why that one? Like, what's
Yeah,
the long term vision?
yeah, yeah. I'll talk through that. So I've sat on boards now for about 15, 16 years, and serving on boards was always my sort of longer term, we'll call it career ambition, let's say. When I started to get into boards and into governance, I realized that there was sort of a gap to help people who were at that very first starting point on their board journey. So they may be joining the board of the local sport club or a small not-for-profit or something like that. Really, how I started my board career, to really get into the boardroom and then to understand what to do once they're there. So I have a business that works in that space. So I teach boards and board members what they're meant to be doing and how to do that better. So I do have quite an extensive governance background and experience. Um, Very soon, so let's just park that to the side because I'm sure your listeners do not want to go down that rabbit hole.
Fair enough.
And fast forward to when I had my stroke, like many of us, I wanted to just go back to normal,
Mhm.
whatever that. I just wanted to not be like I am now, and I just wanted to go back to normal. So probably, no, I think I might give a bit more context. So when you have a stroke and you virtually have quote unquote nothing wrong with you, you get a really nice dose of survivor's guilt. And
Mhm.
then once you start getting into the stroke landscape, you realize that there is no age group, there is no demographic that is untouched by stroke, right? It's not just an old people thing. Babies can have it, and anyone in between those age groups. So, probably about so that realization, understanding it more, given my governance background and experience, probably 3 years after my stroke, when I finally came to terms with it and was like, okay, this is the stroke I needed to have because it identified that heart problem. And so now what are you going to do about it, Lisa? So I thought, well, I have a voice where others don't. I have a skill set and an expertise where some others don't. And, you talk about my nail is, business, the hammer is governance. And I thought, well, boards is how I do things. That's my wheelhouse. That's my interest. That's my zone of genius, if I want to say that. So I thought, why not serve on the Stroke Foundation board or any sort of like stroke organization? Obviously, the Stroke Foundation was there for me very soon after I had my stroke, just to hear from the community, because you do feel when you're thrust into this landscape, you think, I'm young, I'm the only person who's had this thing happen to me. You kind of feel a bit alone. And the Stroke Foundation really helped me to understand that I wasn't alone. And there's a lot of people out there who have gone through what I've gone through or have certainly had someone close to them go through something similar, and to help you sort of come to terms with everything, because it is a lot to come to terms with and accept. And so exploring how I can get myself involved with the Stroke Foundation. And I was doing things like fundraising on my birthday, fundraising on my stroke anniversary, doing certain things like that tangentially, reaching out to people, what else can I do, sort of thing. Eventually, it came about that there was a board position that was open that really did align with that governance experience that I have and that I'd had sort of through my board career. So it seemed like a natural um, moment, a natural opportunity. And so I put myself forward. I definitely went through all of the process that any other person who was going for the opportunity went through. And I do believe that having that lived experience on top of what I could bring to that board, being that governance experience, really was seen to be of value to the Stroke Foundation.
The movement towards a lived experience of late, which is of
Mm,
late, probably the last 2 or 3 years from the Stroke Foundation's been amazing because
yeah,
the amount of lived experience people who are um, being, what's the word, being accessed by researchers, the Stroke Foundation, etc., to help make better uh, programs, better research projects, etc., is phenomenal. It's fantastic. And now that there's somebody who had a stroke on the board, like,
yeah,
hello, like, such an obvious thing, isn't it? Like, that a stroke survivor would be on the board of the Stroke Foundation. But I understand why that might not have been the case up until now, for example, or until you joined. But I want to go back a little bit for a sec where you spoke about your survivor's guilt. So, what's all that about? Like, why did you feel guilty for surviving a stroke?
yeah. Well, you hear about we hear a lot about the high profile people. The most recent one that comes to mind is Jessica Watson, who was that young lady who sailed around the world when she was 16 or so, that her partner in the last handful of years had a stroke and passed away from it. So you look at two extremes. You could be someone like me where you kind of people look at you and they say, well, you don't look like you've had a stroke, which is true. And I don't find that offensive because I don't look like someone who's had a stroke. But then you have the other extreme where people are dying. This does kill people. And there's a broad, vast range of spectrum in there from being sort of quote unquote totally fine and quote unquote normal to dead. And a lot of people have a lot of disabilities and chronic issues that come from experiencing a stroke. Why did I not get that? And why did that next person get that? And why did that person die? And why did that baby lose half their head? Like, you just can't get into it because you'll fall into an existential crisis.
Yeah.
But it's real, and I would feel and probably guess that there's a lot of stroke survivors out there, probably even ones who have disabilities and impairments from their stroke that have a degree of survivor's guilt.
I agree because I've interviewed a ton of them and I'm one of them.
Yeah.
And it was an existential crisis. And it was like, well, how do I go about life now? And am I just going to treat this like a stubbed toe and move on
Yeah.
or what? Because I nearly died 2 times. Well, maybe the second time really came close to, if I wasn't at hospital, probably death properly. Because I blanked out when I got to emergency and I don't recall what happened after I announced myself and said, my name's Bill, and that's pretty much all I remember. And then I woke up in a bed, all connected and all that stuff, right? And then the third time I had brain surgery, which could cause all sorts of dramas for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, I can't possibly treat this like a stub toe. It's far more serious than that. And it was the first thing that taught you about your mortality.
It's certainly just, it makes you realize how thin that veil
Mm,
between life and death really is.
mm.
And that's so confronting. And how lucky how luck plays in it as well. My mum likes to, bless her, I'm sure it's a survival mechanism, likes to think that because I was healthy and exercising before my stroke, that that's what meant that I didn't get any impairments. And I have to keep telling her, no, it's actually just luck where that clot decided to travel to, where it landed, what it did. Luck.
Random,
Random.
unexplainable luck.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. And it's not, and then you go down the avenue of, well, that's not fair. That's not right. And I have to keep reminding people this stuff isn't about fairness.
Mm,
This stuff isn't about what's right. That's just not how this stuff works. It's not
yeah.
how it works. And that's
I had,
hard for us to take because we like to feel that we control our environment and the outcomes that we get to a degree, especially me. But yeah,
bit of a
that's what
control freak. Was that a
the type A personality, Bill. Yeah.
fair enough? So I had the existential crisis, and then it was about, well, you've learned a little bit on this journey. You got to do something about it. There's no point bitching and moaning about all the deficits that you live with, numbness, fatigue, a little bit of spasticity, muscle tightness, some dizziness every once in a while, migraines now. There's no point whinging about it. You feel alone, so just go find people. You need to learn more, so why don't you go and reach out to as many people as you can, hence the podcast, the book, the
Yeah.
whole box and dice, everything that became the Recovery After Stroke community, the YouTube channel, etc. And that brought a lot of purpose and meaning. That's kind of what came from it, purpose and meaning that I didn't have, which I added to my already purposeful and meaningful life of being a dad and a husband. That was a very shallow version of what purpose and meaning is. Not that it's not a cool cause, it's an amazing cause, but it's a very narrow cause. Like it's a small niche in what purpose and meaning could be about, right? And
Yeah.
then it was also about, well, I can set a really good example here to my loved ones, family, friends, whoever, about how you tackle a massive existential crisis, what you do and how you make the most of the second chances that you've been given or the opportunities you've been given that you didn't know could be taken away from you, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's also what you're doing by attending to in your way make somehow a difference in the community that you were selected to be a part of by randomness that you didn't really choose to be a part of.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of what it is. There comes a point, and I feel like this is a lot of people. You talked about how the foundation really taps into the lived experience and those amazing people that step forward because it is hard, and it is hard if you're constantly the one being drawn on for that lived experience to really represent such a broad array of people and experiences and outcomes. And everyone has, because it's the brain, everyone's got their own unique, different experience. It's hard um, to encapsulate that through like one person or a small group of people. But what drives those people to step forward, even though it is hard, because you're reliving that trauma every single time you talk about it, is that desire to make it mean something. I can't have gone through this harrowing experience just to, like you said, treat it like a stub toe. Go, okay, it's the next day now, whatevs, on with life. Which, if that's you listening and that's how you've dealt with having a stroke,
Cool.
that is, you do what you have to do, right? Like
That's cool.
there's no right or wrong way to recover after stroke. Um, but that whole sense of, which I think is a human condition, our desire to give meaning to something, to make meaning from what has gone on.
Yeah, it's to wrap the head around it somehow and then to go, um, okay, I'm gonna make it mean more than what it meant, which was, I think that's what it is for me. It meant you nearly died, and it's
Yeah.
like I'm gonna make it mean more than that. That's not good enough. That's I don't want to contemplate that so often that I nearly didn't make it. I am probably a lot more comfortable with the idea of death these days, but still, I'm
Mm.
not really keen to just think about it as, oh well, you it all, nearly almost died, you know. So I remember just a couple of weeks ago, I posted a vlog, my first vlog, where I spoke about my fatigue and all the challenges that I was going through. I posted it on YouTube, and it's been really popular, and people commented, and there was a person and I did the vlog walking around my neighborhood just talking because I was having a bad day.
Yeah.
And somebody commented, and I don't know where in their recovery journey they are, that they will never walk like I am walking around
Right.
after their stroke. And it's like, thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
It's pretty jarring to hear that again
Mm.
from another stroke survivor. And it's like, I totally get my opportunity and why I am, I don't know, maybe this is the dumb way to explain it, luckier than you in that particular situation, okay?
Yeah.
I'm able to walk and you're not, even though I have deficits. However, I don't, from that person's perspective, maybe they're early on in their recovery, maybe they haven't dealt with certain things enough yet. What I want to say to people like that is, well, that might be the case, but there's no reason why you can't experience a full life either. And
Mm.
there's no reason why you should just give up at that stage and not continue to look for ways to improve your life.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, and don't let me be, or the doctor, or anyone else be the judge of to
Yeah.
what extent you're going to live your life, you know. And I always go back to Stephen Hawking, you know, the great physicist who
Yeah.
was completely and totally disabled
Yeah.
because of his motor neurons disease, I believe it was called, and still was the leading physicist in his field until the day he died. And the majority of his life he spent not even being able to move anything other than his eyes. And
Yeah.
it's like, I know you're doing it tough. And at the same time, I want to remind you that there are other people who are doing it as tough, if not worse than you. And I don't know if there's anyone doing it tougher than somebody like Stephen Hawking, and nonetheless has lived an extraordinary life according to the majority of the population and the people who met them, right? So I hear what you're saying and I accept your comment, and it is a great reminder about my responsibility to continue doing the work that I'm doing to make it easier for people like you. I'm going to advocate for me, for the person on the other side of the screen, and for you who I've never met before. I suppose if that makes it any better, I hope that that helps. You know, I think that that's my responsibility. Like, I don't know, that's how I try and grapple with comments like that and people's journeys with the very debilitating parts of stroke, way more debilitating than my little whinge that particular day, perhaps.
Yeah. I think it's all relative, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like it's absolutely 100% normal to be angry, at what happened, especially because with something like stroke, it's not like you're given a warning. It's not like it's coming in 12 months, like get prepared to live your life completely different. It's literally blink of an eye, old life gone, new life, here we are. And you've got no time to adjust. So all this stuff compounds. And like we said, how you experience stroke is different to how I experience stroke is different to this guy that made this comment experience stroke. None is right or wrong or better or worse or anything like that. Like I often feel at times that people, and I've never had anyone do anything or say anything to me that would make me feel like this. This is my issue that I'm like, I haven't done stroke right because I'm not impaired physically. Like people will look at me and just go, what would she know? She's fine. She's normal. She doesn't look like she's had a stroke. And that plays on it as well. It's like, well, let's talk about the psychological impacts of having a stroke. And chances are our psychological journey has been very similar
Yeah.
in a lot of things. But it is all relative. We can't look at someone and go, yeah, but you've got it so much better than me. Yeah, okay, maybe I do in some aspects, but you don't know the whole picture of someone. You don't know the whole thing. And just because Bill's at this stage with this outcome from a stroke and you're at that stage with that outcome from a stroke, it doesn't mean that Bill's luckier than you or different than you or better or worse or like you've just got to see it that it's all relative. Everyone's on their own journey. And like you were emphasizing, it really is your choice at the end of the day of like, what do you do with this? Okay, you've been served up this real crap cake, but then what you choose and decide to do next really is up to you. And no one can take that away. Stroke can't take that away. You still have your own vocation, right? You can choose to do and react however you like. So
Yeah.
yeah, that if that helps. I don't know.
Yeah, it all helps. The whole conversation helps. And it's not that, you know, it's just that it's good because it makes me contemplate things from somebody else's perspective and the part of the journey that they're on. The hardest part when people see me doing a vlog 13 years post stroke, I mean, it's been a lot
Yeah.
of water under the bridge to get to today. And you're looking at the vlog and you're going,
Yes.
ah, I should be that recovered. Or, why is he so well? Or how did he get to that so quickly? It's like, man, it's been 13 years of ups and downs and wondering whether I'm having another stroke and having an actual another one and having brain surgery and not being able to walk and learning how to walk again and not being able to work and not being able to be a regular member of society. Like the whole thing has been dramatic and having emotional challenges like I've never had before and psychological challenges and counseling and all that kind of stuff. And that's the biggest challenge I have is like my you can't wear all your badges all at once because people wouldn't be able to read them anyway. But
Yeah.
also, you have to just present yourself at the stage that you're at. And that's really important. So, to try and every so often explain to people or remind people about that, I'm presenting myself at the stage I'm at. When I was much sicker, I couldn't do a vlog. I couldn't do a post. I couldn't have a podcast. I couldn't write a book. I couldn't read or type or do any of that stuff.
Wow.
So we're at that stage so many years down the track, and I'm just trying to go, I'm going to get you to engage with me in any way I possibly can
Yeah.
so that I can teach you something. And maybe if what I've done to you now, 13 years out, is remind you of like where you might be in 13 years or how your 13-year journey from your 2-year part of the journey is completely different. Maybe even that's a cool thing. I just did that. And hopefully that's going to help you.
Yes. Yeah. If not a reminder that the time is going to pass, whether you want to be angry about it or not, the time is still going to pass.
Yeah, it
So,
sure will. And it passed so quick,
oh
even
my
though
God,
it
so
feels
fast.
like forever.
Yes.
It also feels like forever. And at the blink of an eye, I just
Yeah.
can't wrap my head around how there's been this warped
Yeah.
experience of my time frame. Like it's so weird. And when I talk about it, I'm right there back then. I'm not reliving it though, because I think after 350 episodes of just talking forever about it, I've stopped reliving it and I'm more remembering my remembering when I
Right.
share it rather than reliving it.
Mm.
But I have had a few crying moments when I'm having a bad day or whatever. And it's related to the stroke. It's still
Yeah.
related to that, but it's not about what happened to me. It's about, I don't know, the difficulty of my
Yeah.
pain that particular day.
Yeah. And just being upset that everything's now a little bit harder, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, come on, man. I think that's totally normal. I think that's totally normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say was the hardest thing about stroke for you?
Oh, I think just accepting that I can't go back to normal. Normal is a figment of your imagination. Now there's a different normal. And how can we thrive given where we are now, like what you were talking about? 13 years out, I'm nearly 10 years out. What thriving looks for me now, obviously could never have been what thriving would look for me in the 6 months, 12 months. I said it took 3 years to really come to terms with it and accept it and go, okay, we're going to put the line in the sand now. What do we do about it? Yeah, that was probably the hardest part.
And what would you say it has taught you, like
Mm.
really taught you?
Uh, I have a funny thing happened to me after I had my stroke. So before stroke, I used to be really scared of flying, right? Airplane, fear of flying, very normal. A lot of people have it. After I had my stroke, my brain was like, you cannot have survived a stroke only to die in a plane crash. So now I'm fine on an airplane. So I don't know how that works. That's just how the brain is thinking. And yeah, that's what's come about from it.
That sounds like the lightning doesn't strike in the same place
Yes.
twice kind
God, I
of
hope so.
feedback.
I'm relying on that now. So
Yeah.
touch wood.
Flying is the safest form of transportation.
I look, you could ask me to rationalize until the cows come home, but that emotional like response that I would get,
Mm,
just it's irrational.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
And it's
just,
also rational because there's like, I don't know, how many tons is an airplane and that shouldn't be floating in the air.
yeah. So you can then research into how are planes actually flying? Like how does this um the physics under it, the physics of flying, and that can help you to feel more comfort in it as well. So, but yeah, or you can have a stroke.
And
Like,
get over it.
go for it. So, what it taught me is maybe the things that you're scared of, like, actually aren't that scary relative to. So, I guess you can get a new set point. And part of me feels like I feel like everyone at one point in their life will have a near-death experience. And I feel like for some of us, we were kind of lucky enough to have that early enough in our life that we could then really change how we think and feel about things and then about what we do and what we can do. Like we might do things that past us would think are a bit scary and I'm not sure I want to do that. Whereas now we're like, really, how bad can it frickin' be? Yeah.
Yeah. I, before stroke, was a tradie, still have that business and I'm painting people's houses, and I don't talk on a podcast. I don't interview people. I don't write a book. I don't do public speaking. I don't do presentations. I don't involve myself with communities other than the very close community that I hang out with, family, friends, etc. It's a completely different version of me after stroke, and it's one that most people wouldn't recognize. They would, that people that knew me wouldn't recognize it, but they would encourage it. They would say, "Yeah, that was cool what you're doing, and it's great to see," and they would support it, but they wouldn't recognize it. I don't recognize myself. I don't even know how I got into this situation and why I took each step that I took, other than every time I took it, I learned something new. the curiosity got the better of me, and I think I approached after stroke from a curiosity mindset, and curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I feel like so many others on their stroke journey would probably have the same reflections as well. If you were to think of, because a lot of people who haven't had a stroke will look at those stroke survivors, particularly the ones that have impairments, disabilities, and it looks like they're struggling. You would think, crap, I could never cope with that. If that was to happen to me, I think I would fall apart. But when you're not given a choice but to survive, but to find a way to thrive, whatever that means for you, you actually realize the potential that you actually do have. And yeah, those people that may not have had something so traumatic happen in their life, maybe they are not reaching their full potential and are underplaying what they could be doing.
Yeah, and great. Good luck to them. I hope that they get to that stage without a stroke or a heart condition or something else, right? Let's,
Yeah.
we'll root for them to either get there or not get there, however they want, but without a medical situation. But
Yeah.
that's how
Why
thick
do
I
we need
am.
that? Yeah. Why do we need that trauma
Yeah,
to get us to that point?
that's
Yeah.
me. That's how thick I was. Like I needed to have all of this stuff happen for me to find my voice. And I'm okay with it, but it is interesting to contemplate, from a philosophical perspective. It's like,
Yeah.
why did you have to go to that much trouble to get
Yes.
the outcome that you have? And it's like, you've always done things the hard way, but this is pretty hard. I mean, really.
This is extreme. Yes,
Yeah.
it's so funny. I feel like I have to like you have to hit rock bottom before you can kind of get better. I feel like that's like a pattern in so many areas of my life, but
Yeah.
I feel like that then maybe puts the burden of responsibility on us that we gave ourselves a stroke,
Yeah.
whereas that's not, I mean, what caused yours? Do you know?
Well, a faulty blood vessel that I was born with, an arteriovenous malformation, right? That
Yeah.
stays benign, or every once in a while, for people, many people, it pops. And you might not have it in your brain, you might have it somewhere else in your body.
Oh,
So mine was just in my brain, and it was, it did nothing for 37 years. And then, and then I do say though that I still created the perfect storm around it. Smoking, uh, not drinking excessively, but drinking, stressing out at work too much, um, probably working 16 hours a day because I was a bit of a control freak. I didn't want to outsource things to other people. Uh, I didn't seek the help that I should have, So I created the perfect storm around this blood vessel so
right.
that it doesn't have the support that it needed to not pop. And people, we find ourselves in that situation in life sometime. We put ourselves under undue pressure. And I was really good at doing that. I'm less, I do that less these days, but uh, it was, I realized very quickly as well that I can't continue going about my life in the same way that I had
Yeah.
because it wasn't, it wasn't going to be conducive to a good outcome, whether it was heart attack or high blood pressure or something else. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how I got to that stage.
Mm.
I wanted to, as we wrap up, I wanted to ask you one last question. So people are listening here, and you and I, we've been on our journey for a little while, and they're probably looking for some guidance, some wisdom, some nugget
Yeah.
on short notice. I know, and putting you under pressure a little bit under the microscope. What do you want to tell people who are listening that are perhaps a little bit earlier on in their journey compared to us?
Mm. The thing that came to mind, Bill, was that it gets better. It gets better. It's you're not going to go back to what was beforehand. I think that's having gone through that and wanted that, uh, and realizing it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So work on accepting that as much as you can. There's no, like we said, there's no right way or wrong way to really process, come to terms with it, and recover. But it does get better.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And the acute phase is the worst phase. And I think for me, one of the things that it was good for me to remember was that the acute phase lasted years. It didn't
Yes.
last only 2 weeks or 3 months or 6 months. The acute phase lasted years. And I've got to say, for me, I reckon the acute phase lasted about 3.5 years, 4 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And then I started to turn the corner, but by then I had dialed in my nutrition. I had dialed in, um, my inner work. I had done a lot of meditation and uh, psychological counseling. So I had dialed in a lot of things, and that is kind of what made me move the needle in my favor further than where it was before.
Yeah.
Um,
And ask for help.
yeah. Oh, that is a beauty, actually.
Yeah.
And we'll end on that one. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I really appreciate the chat.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill. I'm really glad that you've given me the opportunity to share my story.
Well, that brings us to the end of this moving episode with Lisa. From being misdiagnosed after a thalamic ischemic stroke to facing extreme fatigue, uncovering a PFO, and confronting survivor's guilt. Lisa's journey reminds us that recovery isn't just about what's visible, it's about navigating the internal landscape too. Her courage to share, serve, and advocate, especially through her role on the Stroke Foundation board, shows just how powerful lived experience can be. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment, like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. And if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, consider leaving a 5-star rating. It would mean the world to me. It also helps more stroke survivors discover the podcast and join this supportive community. Remember to check out my book, The Unexpected Way That a Stroke Became the Best Thing That Happened. You can find it on Amazon or by visiting recoveryafterstroke.com/book. And if you'd like to support the podcast directly, head over to patreon.com/recoveryafterstroke. Thank you so much for being here and for making this podcast part of your journey. I'll see you in the next episode.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gassiamis. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.